You're sitting in your office and you know that for the next day you still need to create an extensive slide presentation of 10, 20, 30 pages. So what do? You just work all night to do that? Do you want to think about the layout of every single slide in an extensive way? No, this is surely not what I would recommend you to do. What you need are some very good design and layout principles that you can rely on to just produce the deck without needing to think too much about how every individual slide needs to look like. This is exactly what I want to talk about to you today. My name is Heinrich. I'm a former McKinsey consultant, and on my channel I want to help you to create slide presentations in the same style that leading consulting firms like Boston Consulting Group or Bain do. And today we're going to talk about slide layouts, and throughout the video we're going to see lots of example slides. And I will offer all of those to you as a download, as an open PowerPoint file, so you can use them for yourself as a template. There's a download link to them in the video description. Feel free to check them out. And before we jump in, I want to say thank you to thinkcell for sponsoring this video. thinkcell is a tool that I literally use almost every day to improve my PowerPoint slides. You will hear more about them later today. The key principle I want to talk about today is that every slide is a table. When creating slides, you should always think about organizing the information on the page in a table format. So what I do not mean by that is that you should indeed just insert a table in PowerPoint as it maybe looks like here on the slide, but instead you should always consider your page being a collection of rows and columns, and always organize your information in this framework. So every slide is a table, but what exactly does this mean? So in order to make this a little bit more tangible, I will structure this video along three main types of slides. First, qualitative slides, second, quantitative slides, and third, integrated slides, where I want to integrate both qualitative and quantitative information. So let's directly jump into the section on qualitative slides. And I will always start by first showing you a general slide blueprint and then some actual examples so you can bring this format to life. Here's your basic layout for a qualitative slide like that. I hope you directly recognize the table format. In the columns, you have the different types of information that you want to talk about. And this is one key thought, that whenever you have different types of information, you will include them in different columns. This is an error that many people are doing. They're just having a page just with a list of bullet points, and then maybe the first bullet point is about a general principle, the second bullet point is about an example, the third bullet point is about a suggestion that you are making. You are mixing different types of logical information, different logical types of data. You should always then separate this in different columns. Then in the rows, you will typically present different types of information that you apply the things that you talk about in the headers to. The general idea is to avoid just a long list of bullets, to avoid these so-called clotheslines. If you have no idea what a clothesline is and why you should avoid it, I created a video about that in the past. I will link it somewhere above here for you to reference. It's very a key concept. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet. So far the theory, let's look at a couple of practical examples. So here you have a version of this very slide. So we have first a column for the measures, so the different measures that you're proposing, and then on the right a column for the rationale. So why do you think this measure is needed? And you have nicely organized all these measures in rows. Of course, this is a very wordy, a very text-heavy slide, so likely not something for your main deck, but maybe something for appendix. But I think it nicely illustrates the principle how with this table format you can very nicely aggregate and show this data. Next, there may be a little bit more complicated version of such a page. You have a first column with the name of the recommendation that you have, a second column with the details. What exactly is it that you're recommending? A third column with the EBIT impact that maybe you're estimating, here included as a number, and then an additional column for the roadmap, for the timing of it all. Again, notice how different types of information are stretched out to different columns, and then the logical elements that you want to talk about are organized in the row. This is a very typical standard slide format that you will be able to create in a quite quick and straightforward way. And again, all these slides that I will show you here in this video are offered to you as a download in an open PowerPoint format. Check out the link in the video description if this is of interest to you. Next, just an additional layout idea to illustrate that you don't always need to follow this strict column format with the column headers. Of course, for the columns, you can also use other elements. For instance, here in this example, a timeline, or maybe also a process chart with different process bars that you could use for the columns. So you can of course play with it, include some creativity in it. So the slides surely do not need to look all the same, and you can mix it up as needed. Next, let's look at quantitative charts. So charts that have some data visualization on it, some charts, some diagrams on it. Of course, this is a very common chart type, probably the majority of all the charts that you will create, at least in professional services. So let's look what you can do with the layouts in here. But before we do that, let me introduce you to a tool that I learned to love during my career in consulting. It is a tool that is used by almost all the big consulting firms. It is the de facto standard to create professional slides in the style of leading consulting firms like McKinsey, BCG and Bain. And this tool is called thinkcell. It is a PowerPoint plugin that up until this day, in my current role in a startup company, I use almost every single day. It is a tool that nicely integrates in PowerPoint, and even if you feel like that you do not need it at the moment, just the fact alone that it is used by almost all of the big consulting firms should be reason enough for you to pick up the basics of it, because this is a tool that you will likely be expected to use on a very regular basis in many of the big consulting firms. So if consulting is a career that interests you, better pick up the basics on thinkcell. This will for sure be very well invested time. thinkcell does not only help to create effective and beautifully looking charts, but also has lots of functionalities to help to create a good and sound layout on your pages following the style that I will teach to you here in this video. And the best thing is that I actually negotiated a special offer with thinkcell for the firm learning community. If you sign up to thinkcell via the link in the video description, you get first of all a 60-day free trial. This is double the usual size, no credit cards required or any other hidden costs. And then if you do decide to continue using thinkcell after the trial, you will be offered single licenses. This is usually not possible in the thinkcell offering, but with this link here for the firm learning community, you can purchase a license just for yourself. So if this does sound interesting to you, try out thinkcell via the link in the video description. I can personally very much recommend the tool. Let's now jump into quantitative slides. What you see here on this page is arguably the mother of all quantitative slide layouts. And again, I hope that you directly recognize the table format. So on the first column, we have a column on the methodology that you applied here for your data analysis. In the second column, we have the chart with the data visualization that you want to highlight. And then in the third column, we have a column on the implications of this page. What is the so what of this page? Frankly, easily 50% of all the pages I created in consulting followed some version of this very basic layout. And in many cases, you don't even need the first column on the methodology. You have more space than for the chart, for the data visualization, can fill that out and then focus on the right with a couple of bullets on what the implications indeed are, what the reader, the recipient of your presentation is actually supposed to take away from this chart. But let's look at a couple of examples. This would be a very basic layout following exactly this methodology. So on the left, you have the diagram showcasing here in a bubble chart format, the market size, the growth, the profitability, the margin of certain regions. And then on the right, you have a simple column highlighting a couple of points, a couple of key insights that you want to communicate to the reader. Here again, this layout is very basic, but I hope you agree, if you produce a slide like that, you will never get the feedback that this is not looking professional. This is a very solid page, always just following this very basic layout that we just discussed. Next example, here a simple waterfall chart, because the truth is that sometimes you don't even need the additional column on the right. Maybe the chart out of itself is already self-explanatory, or maybe you just want to highlight a couple of points within the chart. Then you can do it with this little element that you see right here. This is something that is sometimes called a call out, right? So just the text box with two line elements to showcase that, also just a variation of this layout that we just discussed. Let's now move to the third type of slide, and these are integrated slides. And these are arguably the most interesting ones, because the truth is that this is a style of creating slides that I think is very, very common in professional services, in consulting, if you work for a firm like McKinsey, BCG, Bain, but it's not that often seen outside of consulting. And this is a style where you're trying to integrate the diagram, the chart, even more into your table with the text. So earlier we've seen this very simple example where maybe on the left you have a chart or diagram and then on the right a list of bullets with implications. And again, this is surely okay, you can do that. But now the problem, maybe the downside, is that now there's a certain disconnect between your bullets and the chart. People now need to read the bullets and maybe they find something interesting and now they need to look at the chart and now they need to try to make the link. And especially if the chart is maybe a little bit more complex, this is often not so easy and it for sure takes additional cognitive energy of the person looking at this to make sense out of all the information that are presented here. And so the idea of these integrated charts, and let me maybe directly jump to an example, is to really integrate the chart together with additional bullets with other information into the table structure. Again, here you see a chart where on the left you have a title, and then you have a simple bar chart, then a column with details, and then an additional column with a strategic assessment. And also notice how this additional call out there on the right is in the end of the day nothing else than an additional column that was inserted there. So always think about whether it makes sense, whether there's an opportunity to include such a diagram into your table structure and don't just have two very separated columns where then on the left you have a diagram, on the right you have a list of bullets. Of course, this doesn't always make sense, but often there is a good opportunity to do something like this, and then this really helps the reader to just process the information in a more direct way. Let's look here at an additional example. Here on the left in the first column you have this waterfall chart, then second column this additional number dimension with the circles, and then on the right you have this column with implications. So again, this is not too far away from this qualitative blueprint we talked about earlier, but notice how here there's this shade on a very specific part of the diagram, where again you really try to integrate the information provided to the right with this very specific element of the chart. Again, this is just an additional little tool that you can use to integrate the information more, to create these nicely integrated slides that we're talking about here. But in the end of the day, this is nothing else than a table format again. So I hope this makes sense and now you understood what exactly I mean by treating every single slide like a table. As I told you earlier, if you are interested in downloading any of these slides, there's a download link to them in the video description to an open PowerPoint file. I once again want to extend a big thank you to thinkcell for sponsoring this video. There's a link to thinkcell in the video description as well, and via this link you will have access to a 60-day extended free trial and also the opportunity to purchase single licenses, which is usually not possible with thinkcell. If this video provided any value to you at all, please destroy the like button for the YouTube algorithm and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay up to date on my content. Big thanks to all the members of From Learning. Your support is very much appreciated. As you know, I'm Heinrich, the creator of this channel. I release weekly videos, so very much looking forward to next Saturday. So if you want to continue developing your slide writing skills, I will insert here an additional video on slide writing next to me, so check that out. Looking forward to see you again soon. All the best to you.